all of you to biol4u.com. Today the chapter in hand is anatomy of flowering plants. So it is one of the major chapter for the NEET examination. So in the anatomy, first what is actually the term anatomy means? The study of the internal structure of an organism is known as the anatomy, internal structure. Okay, so this internal structure of an organism, so it may be a plant or an animal. So the study of the internal structure of the plant is known as the plant anatomy. So we are actually studying the plant anatomy. So in this plant anatomy, we are going to study the different type of the tissue, okay, and the role of this tissue in the growth and development of the plant. So the main point we are going to discuss here is the tissue. So actually what is the tissue? Tissue is a group of cells. Okay, so all the group of cells cannot become the tissue. A group of cells and each and every cells of this group having similar structure and function. At the same time, it also having the similar origin. So all the cells in this group that must have similar structure. The structure must be similar. At the same time, it must having similar function. It must performing similar function, and also it have the similar origin. That group of the cells is known as the similar origin. That group of the cell is known as the tissue. So any group of the cells cannot become the tissue. So to form a tissue, the group must containing cells that have the similar structure, function and origin. That group of the cells is known as the tissue. So in the case of the plant, the tissues are classified into two groups. So what are the two groups of the plant tissue? So plant tissue classified broadly into two groups. So what are the two groups? So one of the group is known as the meristematic tissue. Meristematic tissue, and another group is known as the permanent tissue. So permanent tissue and meristematic tissue are the two type of the tissue available in plant. Some of the tissues are meristematic tissue and some other tissues are permanent tissue. So tissues are broadly classified into two groups. So let us take something detail about the meristematic tissue. So in the case of the meristematic tissue, the cells are immature. Okay, so first character of the meristematic tissue, cells are immature. The cells present in that is immature. It is not well matured. So it is known as the immature cells. The cells present here is immature. And another character of the cells in the meristematic tissue, it has the ability for the division. So it continuously divides. The ability for the division or it continuously divide, that is another property of the meristematic tissue. And the third property of the meristematic tissue, the cells are polyhedral. Polyhedral means more than 4 sides. The cells are polyhedral, and at the same time it is isodiametric. Polyhedral or isodiametric. Isodiametric means all the cells having equal dimension. So it is known as isodiametric. Not only having the similar side, but also all the cells are near about similar. So it is known as isodiametric in structure, and it is a polyhedral, more than 4 sides. Okay. Another property of this meristematic tissue, cell wall thin. So the cell wall is very thin. Why is the cell wall is thin? Because it has to divide continuously. So cell wall is thin cell wall. At the same time, the cell wall is elastic in nature because it has the property to divide. After the division, the cell will enlarge. So for that purpose, the cell wall is elastic in nature and composed of the cellulose. It is containing cellulose. There is no pectin or other secondary deposition. So cellulose will be present on the cell wall. Okay. Then another property of the meristematic tissue, the protoplasm or cytoplasm is abundant. Means a dense protoplasm is present. Means a large quantity of the protoplasm is available, present. So dense protoplasm is present. With a distinct nucleus. So the sixth character, another character, it has a distinct nucleus, very clear nucleus or a distinct nucleus or large nucleus is present in the meristematic tissue. Distinct nucleus. This is another property of the meristematic tissue. And another property, one more property, that is the vacuole are absent. Actually the plant cell containing large vacuole, but here the vacuoles are absent. There is no vacuole, and if vacuole present, it is very small. So vacuoles are absent, or if present, that is very small or small. So this is another character of the meristematic tissue. Then one more character, that is it has a high rate of metabolism. So metabolism is high rate of the metabolism, because it is a continuously dividing cell, it is requiring energy, so high rate of metabolism. So metabolism is high. That is another property of the meristematic tissue. So these are the properties of the meristematic tissue. Then let us take an example for this, diagrammatic representation for this meristematic tissue. So see here, this is the one of the typical meristematic tissue. So here the cells are having immature in nature. Cells are immature in nature. At the same time, the cell continuously divide, and it has a polyhedral in or isodiametric in nature. So see here, the cells are isodiametric in nature, and it has a polyhedral, means more than 4 sides, and the nucleus is very large, very distinct, and the cytoplasm is abundant, dense cytoplasm, and there is no space between the cell, that is the intercellular space is absent. There is no vacuole is available in that, and it has the high metabolic rate. So that is the typical meristematic tissue. So now let us study the classification of this meristem. So meristems are classified on several bases. One of the classification, according to one of the classification, the meristems are classified into different types according to their origin. Okay, so classification of the meristem. Classification. Meristem. Okay, the meristems are classified on different bases. So first, let us first take based on the origin. So based on origin. So according to the based on the origin, the meristems are classified into number 1, that is the primordial meristem. Primordial. So let us see what is the primordial meristem, or the alternative name of this meristem, that is, it is otherwise known as the promeristem. Promeristem, or it is known as the embryonic meristem. These are the alternative name, embryonic meristem. All these are one and the same. So what is actually the primordial meristem? The meristem actually is present at the tip of the root and shoot. So the meristem present at the tip of root and shoot. That is known as the primordial meristem. Root and shoot. That meristem is known as the primordial meristem. Okay. Then the second type of meristem is the primary meristem. So primordial is different from the primary meristem. So what is actually the primary meristem? Meristem which is produced by the promeristem. So it is developing from promeristem. So first promeristem producing the meristem, that is known as the primary meristem. So from primordial meristem. So primordial meristem producing a type of the meristem, that is known as the primary meristem. Okay. It also present at the root and shoot apex. It present at root apex and shoot apex. Root apex, and also present at the shoot apex. So that is the location of the primary meristem, shoot apex and root apex. Okay. So permanent tissue developing from this primary meristem. The primary meristem will produce the permanent tissue. Produce permanent tissue. That is a function of the primary meristem. Permanent tissue. Okay. So that is the primary meristem. And number third type is the secondary meristem. So you know the word explaining that what is actually secondary meristem. The meristem developing from the primary meristem is known as the secondary meristem. So from primary meristem developing from primary meristem is known as the secondary meristem. Okay. So meristem developing from the developing from the primary meristem, that is the secondary meristem, and this forming the permanent tissue later. It produced on later stage of the plant. Hence it is known as the secondary meristem. It producing later. First producing primary meristem, then it converting into secondary meristem and forming the permanent tissue. Okay. So and it helping the secondary meristem. It helping for the growth of the plant. It helping for growth of the plant. And hence it is developing later stage and developing from the primary meristem, so it is known as a secondary meristem. It is helping for the growth of the plant. It always lateral in position. If you see the position, it is a lateral in the stem or in the root. It is present on the lateral side, lateral in position. Okay. So if you take some example for the secondary meristem, one of the example is the fascicular cambium. So what is actually the fascicular cambium? Fascicular cambium means the meristematic tissue present, fascicular cambium. Meristematic tissue present in the vascular bundle is known as the fascicular cambium. See, suppose this is the vascular bundle. Okay. So in this vascular bundle, there is a cambium present. That cambium is known as the meristematic tissue, and that is known as the fascicular cambium. On either side you can see phloem and xylem. So that is a fascicular cambium. And another example for the lateral meristem is the interfascicular cambium. So what is the interfascicular cambium? Interfascicular cambium means the cambium present in between the vascular bundle. Suppose this is the one vascular bundle and this is the another vascular bundle. So between the vascular bundle, and here is the fascicular cambium, between the vascular bundle there is a cambium that is known as the interfascicular cambium. Okay. Then another cambium present in the cork, that is known as the cork cambium, that you can see during the secondary thickening. The plant increasing the girth, that is a secondary thickening. On that time you can see the cork cambium. So this fascicular cambium, interfascicular cambium and cork cambium are example for the secondary meristem. Okay. Then let us go to the classification of the meristem according to the position. So based on position, the meristems are classified into different types based on position. That is the apical meristem based on position. One of the meristem is the apical meristem. You know, apical meristem means the meristem present at the apex of the plant. That means the shoot apex and root apex. That is the apical meristem. So these are the meristem present at the root and shoot apex of the plant. So let us see. So see here. This is the shoot apex and this is the root, and the root also having the apex. So that is the apical meristem. Meristem present at the apex of the plant, that is the apical meristem. Then another one, number 2, that is the axillary meristem. Axillary meristem. The axillary meristem means the meristem present at the axis of the plant. That is the, suppose this is the branch and this is the main body of the plant, and here this point having the axis. The meristem present at this point, that is known as the axillary meristem. Okay. And the third type of meristem, that is the intercalary meristem. So these are the 3 type of the meristem based on the position in the plant. Apical meristem, that is present on the apex of the stem and also present at the apex of the root. Axillary meristem during the formation. Actually, what is the axillary meristem? During the formation of the leaf. Suppose a leaf is producing, and elongation of the stem is elongated, stem's length is increasing, and during that time some cells left behind. Suppose this is the cell. So here the length increasing or it is producing the leaf. Then some cells remaining at this point, and that is known as the axillary meristem. Okay. It may produce this axillary meristem. It may be producing a branch or it may be producing a flower. Okay. Then intercalary meristem means meristem occur between the permanent tissue. See here, this is the intercalary meristem between the permanent tissue. Some meristem present, that is known as the intercalary meristem. It occur in the grass and regenerative part removed by the grazing herbivores. Means when the grass is eaten by the animal, grazing animal, the tissue that is left there, that regenerate regenerate and producing the intercalary meristem. So it occur in the grass and regenerating part removed by the grazing animal. So both the apical and apical meristem and intercalary meristem are primary meristem. Both these meristem, apical meristem and intercalary meristem, are the primary meristem because it develop in early life of the plant, from which primary plant body is developing. From the apical meristem, intercalary meristem, the primary plant body will develop. Okay. So after division of the cells in the primary meristem and secondary meristem, the newly formed cells that become structurally and functionally specialized and lose the ability for the division multiplication, such cells are termed as the permanent or mature cells. So what is the point? So apical meristem and intercalary meristem that is producing the plant body. Okay. So when the cells divide, that cells lost the power. If the cells lost the power of the multiplication, that cells become the permanent or it become the mature cells. So during the formation of the primary plant body, specific region of the apical meristem produce dermal tissues and ground tissues and vascular tissues. So I will take a diagram to explain that point. So see, this is the root apex and this is the shoot apex. So see what are the different regions of this root apex. The root apex having the root cap. See here, this is the root cap. Just proximal to the root cap, you can see the root initials. So initials of the root cap initial seen here, and just above that you can see apical meristem, that is known as a root apical meristem. Okay. Then in the central part you can see the central cylinder. This is the central cylinder, and on around the central cylinder you can see the cortex. So this part is the cortex, and outside the cortex you can see the protoderm, and that actually produced by the apical meristem. Okay. So initials of the central cylinder and cortex, this part is the initials. From that the central cylinder develop, and from that also the cortex develop. That initials you can see here, and this is the root cap initial. So root meristem, just below the root meristem, root cap initial, and that is producing the root cap. And this is the meristematic tissue, it is continuously dividing. And in the case of the shoot apex, you can see leaf primordia. This is the leaf primordia that protect the apical tissue, and then shoot apex. This is the shoot apex, and just below that you can see the meristematic zone. Here the cell continuously divide, and this is the axis, means apical meristem, and this is the leaf, and between that you can see the axillary bud, and in this part you can see the differentiating vascular tissue, vascular xylem and phloem is differentiating at this point. So that is the structure of the root apex and shoot apex. Okay. So then we can study the permanent tissue. So that is all about the meristematic tissue.